Hello everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Naughty Neighbours. First up, we have First Time Ever Having a Relentless Lunatic Neighbour by Kinky Pisha. Everywhere I've lived, I've never had any issue with the neighbours. Well, I moved into a lovely home in the city recently, even though city living isn't my thing. It's just what I can afford right now, and it's in a safe area, close to daycare and work. My house is on the corner, and has the option of parking on the street, or opening the gate at the back on the alleyway to park in the driveway. It's a thin alleyway, and directly across is the neighbour. It's an elderly man, and his middle-aged daughter with her kids. And all they do is torment myself and my roommates. They have made calls to the city to say we're running a prostitute circle. That got real extreme real fast. Try to get us all removed by claiming there's 13 of us. It's not. It's 3 adults in a 6-bedroom house, one of which rents out the basement, which is fully finished. The city has deemed nothing to be wrong multiple times now. Those neighbours stare at us through their windows or will walk outside and blatantly stare at us anytime any of us do anything. When my boyfriend was hired to do landscaping and one job was at my house, they called the police on him, threatened his personal safety and property damage to his car, and made false accusations that my landlord set them up to spy on us. My landlord had been trying to find a way to take them to court, but it's proving to take time. The last time anyone used the driveway months ago, the neighbors flew out to scream at the roommate who was parking, cuss out their mother who was visiting, and call the police for damaging their property. The roommate hit the curb while making the turn into the driveway off the alleyway. The police sided with my roommate, saying that aside from there being no damage to the curb due to the narrowness of the alleyway, there is no way to have pulled their vehicle in without bumping the curb, and that the curb did not exclusively belong to the neighbor, and thus they couldn't do anything because of roommate hitting it. Well, I parked in the driveway today after getting a new car, and they all flocked to their window to stare at me. While I opened the gate to park, the middle-aged daughter came out to stare at me. I said, "Can I help you?" as she was very obviously only there to watch me and had eyes on me like a hawk. I proceeded to get back into my car to park after opening the gates, to which she stepped off the porch to the sidewalk closer to me and began yelling at me that I don't belong here. Get my car away from her property and don't hit my fucking curb with your car, bitch. I stopped. I said, "I did not do anything to your property. I'm on public roads to park my vehicle on my private property. Respectfully mind your business." Finished parking my car and stepped out to close the gate. She began screaming at me, telling me, "Try it again, bitch. See how well that works out for you and your fucking car, bitch." Now I did snap. I had a long day, a migraine, and with my baby in the car, I started feeling types of ways to protect her. I know it was wrong of me, but it just came over me and I yelled back, "Would you shut the fuck up and mind your business? Leave us alone already. What is wrong with you people? Harassing people on their own private property for no goddamn reason. Go be miserable somewhere else and quit bothering us." They all stepped outside at that point, coming to the sidewalk, cussing me out and threatening me further, telling me I was about to find out, but not in the alleyway, and watched me as I took my baby out of the car and went up to my door. As I was unlocking it, I saw them reaching around and I got anxious. I pulled my phone out and began recording, and as they saw me staring at them, they silenced. And once they realized I was recording, they shouted, "Oh no, you're not gonna fucking record me, what the fuck?" And they all ran inside and closed their blinds. I do believe that they are mentally ill, no excuse. And the middle-aged daughter looks like a drug addict, no excuse. But this is exhausting, and they have crossed way too many lines. I did inform my landlord and my roommates. My landlord is installing high-quality security cameras for us on the house, excellent, all around, especially the driveway, so myself and my roommates can feel safer while using it now. I don't even know what to do anymore. Nothing is working. Well, I think those cameras will definitely help. And I'd kind of just get in the habit of when they do anything egregious enough, call the police. Okay. Story number 2. Scary Christmas Thieves by Spandex Suspenders. 2 days ago, I put some basic Christmas decorations in our front yard. This is the first time I've had yard decorations, and this is our first Christmas in our first home. I had some little sprays of solar-powered lights, 8 stems that split into 10 little lights, and 4 metal gingerbread-themed stakes. One was a larger house and 3 smaller individual gingerbread characters. The lights and stakes were set up almost flush with the house itself, at least 6 meters or 20 feet away from the road. Today, when I arrived home after being out for a couple of hours, I noticed all my lights were missing and one of my gingerbread men was AWOL. There was a stake from one of the lights laying on the grass, and I walked up the path toward a small park that is 2 houses down from mine, finding another stake that had been dropped. Walking further, I found another stake. Then, when I looked up, I saw my gingerbread man and all my lights in a garden across from the park. There was a woman in a 4-wheel drive in the driveway, with a number of children, and I went to the end of the driveway, waved and smiled, saying hi. She ignored me for a few minutes, then stuck her head out the window asking what I wanted. I explained that someone had taken my Christmas decorations. I had planned on saying I noticed she had some, and that she should keep an eye on hers just in case, but she immediately started yelling at me that she didn't effing take my decorations, that she didn't steal, and she had them for ages. I then clarified, through her continuing to yell at me, that I was just trying to warn her that there's a decoration thief around at the moment. She told me to F off, so I went to leave. I did point out that some of her lights were missing their stakes, which she acted surprised to hear. She yelled from her car at my husband, who had just then come out of our house to check everything was okay. And I, to F off, you fat Fs, and my husband, unwisely, calling her a thieving bitch. I mean, if the label fits, you know. She then drove over to our house, with a small child strapped to the back seat, to tell us she was going to come over tonight and smash all our windows, and that she would get her partner to bash our faces in. I told her I was going to call the police, and she told me I should, and eventually left. When the police came, I'm so glad you did. A lot of people threaten to do it and don't. They said they couldn't do much because I didn't have footage of the threats. They did say she was well known to the police and advised us to keep our distance. Oh, great job, guys. Well done. We have bought cameras to install around the house tomorrow, plus signs saying we are filming. I'm worried about them coming back. Honestly, I kinda hope they do a little bit, not to harm you, but to steal again, then you can get them on film, then get them arrested. A few weeks ago, when my husband was away, they sent one of their small kids over. Now I think it was to case our house and check for cameras. He knocked on our door in the middle of a weekday and said he'd fallen over and asked if I could drive him home. They live 5 houses away. I hope you told him to hop. When I said I couldn't drive the car we had in the driveway and offered to check with one of the neighbors, he backpedaled quickly and left. Harassed for a decade and counting by Street Auditor Neighbor by Jetplane88. My neighbor has been intermittently harassing us for years. My home has a front door on the main street with steps and a back door that opens onto a tiny single-lane cobblestone cut-through. It was originally designed for horses and never updated. It is technically a public way, but it's functionally used by only me and one other resident facing it. There are 2 full-way streets with proper visibility on either side, so most people never enter the cut-through. Pulling out of it is practically blind. Because my front entrance requires climbing a set of porch stairs, anytime I have furniture delivered or heavy items brought in, I ask the delivery van to pull into the cut-through. It's the only practical access point. About a decade ago, I had a moving van parked there when a car pulled up behind it. The driver immediately started honking. One of the movers told her they would only be 5 minutes, but she became angry. Oh, I think she started angry. Stormed up to my door and began pounding on it. I didn't know what was happening and asked if everything was okay. She immediately started shouting, accusing me of blocking a public street, calling me obnoxious, the worst kind of degenerate, and a disgrace, before ultimately announcing that she was calling 911. Yeah, 'cause that's what they're there for. I tried to tell her the van could be moved, but she was yelling too loudly to hear me. She called 911, but eventually left after waiting about 20 minutes with no police response because they've heard from her before. This was even after the van had moved. I chalked it up as a bizarre one-off incident. But about 5 years later, when a volunteer parked in the cut-through to help me load donations for an animal rescue, she appeared again, same shouting, same accusations. This time, she even tried to get into the volunteer's car and move it herself. People. Climbing into the driver's seat before realizing the keys weren't inside. Oh, I wish they had been. I had my house security cameras running, so this was all recorded. I called the police. They came quickly this time and spoke to her. Since she was an older woman, the volunteer didn't want to pursue it. Nope, give him an inch. And the police assured me they had warned her to stay away. I chose not to press charges. Over the next several years, similar confrontations happened occasionally. I simply stopped opening the door for her. Today, however, things escalated. My mother's friend, who uses a wheelchair, was visiting. Her health aide dropped her off from the handy accessible van in the cut-through to avoid the stairs, and then she left briefly to run an errand. My mother's kind, soft-spoken Honduran nurse answered the door for this woman, at which point my neighbor began yelling that my housekeeper was obnoxious, everything wrong with society, that parking in the cut-through was a crime, and she even threatened to call ICE. Oh, they love showing themselves, these creeps, don't they? They really do. I stepped between them and told her to leave my property, or I would call the police for trespassing. Absolute fucking losers. Sorry. She went to her car, sat there honking, tried to engage passers-by who ignored her, and loudly announced she was calling the police. I told her she should, because I had a video of her behavior. I also called the non-emergency precinct number myself to give them a heads up. Who knows what she might try to tell them. 10 minutes later, she got out of her car, came onto my property, and began ripping down my Christmas decorations while screaming. At that point, I called the police again, said she was damaging my property, and asked for assistance. They told me to remain inside. When officers arrived, they spoke to us both. They saw my mother's wheelchair-bound, cognitively impaired friend, and the accessible van. They simply asked that the van be moved when possible and left it at that, like it was gonna be anyway. I explained to the officer that this had been a recurring pattern for years. He told me something I did not know before. This woman is a self-proclaimed public works street auditor, i.e. no life. Someone who intentionally drives down lesser-used public passageways to check for obstruction complaints. She should take up knitting. He said, she gets triggered by parking, and we hear from her often, told you. Separately, I did some internet digging, and since learned that she has been writing opinion letters to the local college newspaper for years, even though she never attended the school, complaining that 1. Parking spaces designated for faculty and students are discriminatory and offensive to her. Those pesky people teaching and learning. Well, I oughta. And 2. Bike lanes and e-scooters are hazardous to elderly residents. These letters go back, they should get bikes, go back a long time and paint a picture of someone fixated on access, streets, and parking regulations. She describes herself as seething with anger. Well, at least she's self-aware. I'm trying not to have her arrested or waste the cops' time on this. Oh no, call the police every single time. She needs to be locked away. I truly just want to be left alone in my own home without repeated confrontations, threats, or property damage. but based on the officer's comments and her long-standing pattern of behavior, I know she will likely return. Any suggestions on deterring her or managing? Turn on the sprinklers in your garden when she arrives? No, I mean, really, you can't do anything to her that would agitate. All you can do is document, record, and call the police whenever she's acting up. And it sounds like you're well set up to do that, so just keep on keeping on. They know she's the nuisance, not you. Worst case scenario, you could take legal action against her. It would have to be a civil suit, but maybe get some sort of protective order against her. It has been a continuing pattern of harassment, and you will have police reports to back that up. Alright, story number 4. What Do I Do? Crazy Neighbours by Glittering Box 3181. I have lived with my boyfriend in our apartment for about 2 years, and we have not had one day of silence or peace the entire time. I totally get that when you live with people all around you, it's not always going to be quiet. But oh my god, our neighbours have 3 kids in a 2-bedroom apartment. It used to be only 1 kid for almost a year, and it was living hell then too. The kid bangs on their open screen door, and their door is quite literally never closed. We overheard the dad saying something disgustingly cruel to their 3-year-old about using their potty, and it bothered us. We left a note expressing our concern, along with the non-stop tantrums, banging and screaming. No response whatsoever. Oh, they'll remember, trust me. It got so frequent and distressing that we called CPS, because to our knowledge this was harmful, which is fair if you think there's harm. It didn't seem like they showed up, so we called again. All of a sudden we get a knock on our door and we open it. It's some middle-aged guy that doesn't live there, and I'm a woman, and he lost it on me, aggressively saying, "You want to tell me why you keep calling out?" I closed the door on him because what the fuck? He had the audacity to knock again and then apologized to my boyfriend, not me, for being an absolute dickhead. He is not related to them, but he is apparently their friend that they call instead of communicating with their actual neighbours so that he can chew us out. For what? I mean, that's a really good way to get smacked in the mouth. I wonder if it's ever happened to him. We did our best to just tolerate it, but it just got worse. My boyfriend decided to go over there directly and let them know that I have PTSD. Oh, don't tell them that. And this is a huge trigger for my stress and anxiety. They're definitely not the kind of people that would respond well to honesty like that. They are professional victims and have 1,000,001 excuses as to why it's just too hard to be considerate. I don't wanna. That's kind of the main one, I'm guessing. I eventually, one morning, decided to file a noise complaint because it was the crack of dawn, and the door is open and the tantrums already started. I had my door open when I made the noise complaint, and the mom clearly eavesdropped on my call because she out of the blue wrote a note on the door saying, "Putting the kids down for a nap," or some BS, and she called her unemployed friend. The officer came, and she tried to hide from him upstairs, and she immediately told the officer we were harassing her. I asked to speak with him privately after she gave him a load of excuses, and he told me that she was eavesdropping, and also that they are essentially making excuses. I expressed my concern about the random guy approaching my door, and he said he isn't allowed to do that. Weird. Of course, when he went to leave, the POS came up to the officer, told him he was going to press charges, and the officer basically said, "You have nothing to do with this," and left. So the guy waited inside the house until the officer was gone. The officer gave me a slip of paper to give to the office because, apparently, our neighbors told the office we were harassing them as well. Anyway, I step outside and the guy screamed at me, "What is wrong with you?" Scared the crap out of me, and I started having a panic attack. I have him on video following me down to the office and trying to beat me there, and when I made it down, the lady working said he's been talked to before about this. What is wrong with these people? Right. Now, I'm looking at the comments on Reddit. I won't quote anybody, but they're giving the obvious and easy to give advice telling you to move. If you have the option of doing that, great, but if you don't, just keep documenting things. If cameras are an option for you, also just record any interactions if at all viable. Make sure you have evidence and keep calling the police when they're harassing you. But yeah, really, unless their landlord is willing to kick them out, and as long as they're paying the rent, what do they care in a lot of cases? Moving might be the best option, but it's just so time consuming, so expensive, and why should you have to leave because of them, right? Okay. Fifth and final story is anonymous. Hi everyone. I am writing to you to find a third-party opinion and advice. Background information. I, 26, female, non-Dutch. Live in a first-floor pre-war flat in the city centre of one of the biggest cities in the Netherlands. I have been living in this flat for the past 6 years. I originally moved in as a student, but now I work full-time 9 to 5. I have always shared the flat with a roommate to keep costs down. I have never thrown a house party, not even when I was a student. I do not play any instruments. I do not dance in the flat or play music out loud, always AirPods. I do not have any pets, and I do not trash the place. My flat is essentially for sleeping, chilling, and hosting one friend or two for some baking sessions. All the flats in the block were owned by the same person. He started to sell every single flat since the taxation laws changed. He tried to kick me out too. But I already knew my rights, so I am the only person renting in the whole flat now. Every neighbor I have are homeowners. The issue is with my downstairs neighbor, late 20s male, Dutch, who moved in this spring. The first interaction I had with him was when he was doing renovation work during a weekday at 11 p.m, which is not legally allowed, by the way. I went downstairs to ask him to please stop making noise since I need to work the day after. The very first thing he asked me was if I was renting or if I owned the place. He did not apologize, nor did he say he'd stop. It was his girlfriend who apologized and asked him in front of me if he could continue the day after. During this time, my upstairs neighbors were also doing renovation work, but never outside the allowed hours, and they apologized before starting. The second incident was when my shower started leaking. He got my number from the upstairs neighbor and called me. I said I was 5 minutes away from my flat and that I'd come downstairs whenever I got home. As soon as I got home, he came knocking on my door. I was putting my groceries away, and I was a bit surprised he couldn't wait more than 3 minutes to let me put things in the fridge. He barged in. Illegal entry, but okay. And started looking at my shower. I told him I'd call the landlord and get it fixed, and that I won't be using the shower in the meantime. The day after that, the shower got fixed, and I informed him about it. He immediately came upstairs, knocked on my door, I opened it, and he barged in, "You need to get a taser," asking if he could take a look. In the meantime, I was making dinner, and he literally put his face in front of the stove and asked me what I was cooking. He then looked at the shower and told me that it didn't look fixed. I told him that I was told that it got fixed and that we can try it now that we're both home. He then asked me what the repairman told me about the shower. I had to explain that I don't speak Dutch. I lied, and that I do not know anything about construction work. True, but was told it got fixed. We went to try it out, and it was fixed. That was a mistake. Certainly that should have been more of a "get the fuck out of my apartment, you absolute freak of a human being," but nicely so he didn't kill you. The third incident was with my last flatmate. She was taking out the trash one day. Trash can is across the street. She told me this man left his flat and came running behind her to ask her stuff like where she is from, how old she is, how long she will be staying, what is her name, etc. This happened at around 8 a.m, and he did not have a trash bag in his hand. He essentially followed her to interrogate her. Some guys have got no game, I swear. Right after summer, this flatmate moved away, and I went on holiday for 1 week. I had a friend who was between flats, and I offered him my room during that 1 week so he could have a place to stay. I got a message from my downstairs neighbour asking for my new flatmate's number because they were walking too loudly. Why do people want to share phone numbers? You don't know that. You don't know these people. At that point, I was already getting too impatient with him and his actions, so I just replied that it was a friend staying over and I think it's not fair to ask people to walk differently when he's been doing renovation work off hours and on Sundays for months already, and that I have not complained about it beside the first time. He did not apologize, and just said renovations are almost over. Yes, men like him do not apologize because they do no wrong in their little world. A week or so after I came back from holidays, my new flatmate moved in. I already warned her that the neighbor is nosy. She unfortunately read it as noisy and wasn't ready for his actions. I told her that as soon as she and her friends started to bring things upstairs, note, no furniture whatsoever, just suitcases, the neighbor came upstairs, started interrogating her, and barged into the flat to see it. He then asked her to please stop moving things around because his parents were over for dinner. That sounds like a you problem, dickhead! It was 6 p.m. You're allowed to make noise until 10 p.m. And again, there was no furniture moving. Right after this incident, when I was alone in the flat one day, I had two men ringing the doorbell at around 8:30 p.m. I got nervous because you usually don't get people visiting flats without proper notice, and never after 6 p.m. From my flat, I heard the neighbor opening up the door to these men, bringing them to my floor and starting to tell them all my information, if I work or not, pointing to my door, etc. I sent him a message right after asking him to stop giving out my information to people, and not to open the door to random people who say they are coming to talk to me. I specifically told him that I am a young woman living by herself. Oh, he knows, trust me, he knows, whose family is on the other side of the world. He did not apologize and said it was a municipality and they looked official. Thankfully, it was the municipality. They came again at a normal time, and I was told someone called them and gave them a tip about me and my flat, and that we were not following the rules of registration. Here in the Netherlands, there is a maximum number of people who are allowed to live in a residence. I have always followed all rules, so no problem on my end, but I put two and two together, and I have a strong feeling my neighbor called the municipality on me. I thought these issues would be over then, since the municipality always gets back to you whenever they check on the issue. And they let you know the outcome. It turns out it didn't stop then. A couple of months passed, and I got another message from my neighbor, asking me if I really have a flatmate or not. He of course knows because A, he went to question her, and B, he probably called the municipality. He's saying he's been speaking with the upstairs neighbors about this random girl who keeps walking in and out and is worried about the entrance door not closing. I spoke to my flatmate about it since I found it weird. She then told me the upstairs neighbors already know her because she spoke to them previously. I have also never gotten any complaints or messages from the upstairs neighbors either. Now, I don't know what to do anymore. I feel like the door not properly closing might be an issue, but also we live in one of the poshest neighborhoods of the city. But wouldn't it be easier to just fix the door? I feel like I'm being policed, watched, you are, and monitored in my own house at all times. I don't have a partner now, but if I had, would he be asking me about the guy who keeps on coming and going? Can't I host a friend for a couple of days before being questioned about it? And I mention that I'm not Dutch, and he is, because maybe there are some xenophobic tendencies behind his actions, I don't know. I mean, he just sounds like a prick. All the other neighbors are Dutch too, and I've had no problems with them. I have been living in this country for 8 years, since I turned 18, so I'm pretty aware of all social rules, and I do speak the language, even though he thinks I don't. Well, I think it's tempting to say that you should get some large male friends, like that person on Reddit said to you, to come by and intimidate him, and guaranteed a guy like that would make him absolutely whimper. I'd like to tell you just to stand up to him, yell at him, put him in his place whenever he acts up, but I don't know this guy. I don't know how he'd react to that, because some of these tough guy types, they just need to be put in their place, which is generally underneath your boot heel. And if he was the kind of guy who would respond well to that, that would work great, but there's no guarantee that he wouldn't become violent. I just suggest you report him whenever he complains. Keep a record of everything. If it's at all possible, do you have a doorbell that records? If that's doable, that might be a good idea. I doubt it will escalate higher than that, because you've heard from some of the other stories here, some of these neighbours are just busybodies. They like to stick their nose into everybody's business. He probably thinks he's better than you, because he's living in an owned rather than the rented apartment, although quite frankly renting does have its upsides versus owning. The only thing I can say for sure is he's definitely not going to go anywhere, and he's probably not going to get any easier to be around. But you've obviously fought for your apartment, so you're not going anywhere either, so the situation is learn to deal with him. I think you've got to stand up to him, because it's either that or put up with it. I'd maybe want to have a friend with me when I did it, but maybe get your roommate to be with you. Having two people to deal with would certainly help keep the situation more under control, but I think you've just got to stand up to him. Risky though that may be. Okay, that brings us to the end of today's video. Big thanks to everyone who allowed me to use their stories in this video. If you'd like to support the channel, you can sign up for my Patreon page, which is linked down in the description. You'll also find a link to my merchandise store on Teespring. Patreon gets you early access to the videos, if you're wondering. There's also links to my Discord and my threads, and if you'd like to send me a message, that's kingofthecities@gmail.com. If you want to ask for a shout out, if you have business inquiries, or you want to send in a story. But for now, I'm going to head off. So until next time, thank you very much for watching, and take very good care of yourselves. Bye bye.